Hey there, thanks for checking out my video on branching and Git. I just released a new course on Git, and there's a whole chapter diving into the ideas behind branching and not just the mechanics, but actually the reasons. Because it's one thing to learn how to do the branching operations, it's entirely another to figure out how to put those into practice in different situations. Are you creating a branch to fix a bug in a past version of the application? Or are you creating a branch because you're doing a feature branch or a bug fix going forward, or maybe even with the idea of creating a pull request for contributing to open source? Knowing the hows and whys of all those different situations, I think is going to be really important for people using Git. That's why I took one chapter, that entire 1 hour chapter from my Git course, and converted it into this YouTube video so everyone can check it out and learn from it. So I hope you take some time and watch this video and see all the different ways in which we can use branching and source control and Git to do awesome things. You can find the entire course over at talkpython.fm, where you can sign up and take that. And you can also find the source code from the projects that we're talking about here over on GitHub. Links in the descriptions for all of these. Thanks so much and enjoy this presentation on Git and branching. Branching is a really important and powerful aspect of source control. It allows you to do parallel development. This might be parallel development in exploring multiple ideas while also maintaining the main production level of your app. This might be other people working in parallel and then bringing their code together, or even, as we discussed at the beginning, going back in time to an older version, creating what's called a branch, and then creating some kind of fix or adjustment or improvement for that version without necessarily taking into account all the new work and features that have been done. Branching is one of those things that you can use source control with and never use. But if you're really, truly taking advantage of it, you're going to want to use branching. This is especially important on open source projects and on team projects where multiple people are working, but as I said, it's still valuable even if it's just you working by yourself. So in this chapter, we're going to explore several of the reasons and use cases for when you might branch, how we can do that with Git and even in our GitHub repository, and how you can apply some ideas and some techniques so that branching and then bringing that work back is way less painful than it might be if you're not taking them into account. Super exciting chapter, really powerful features. It'll level up your source control game. There are different reasons you might want to create a branch and start working over there instead of right in your main branch or wherever you happen to be working at the moment. Understanding the different reasons and the different use cases will be really strong indicators for you to know when you should branch and how to do that. Obviously, the command is the same, but the techniques applied and when stuff is merged or how you think about the other stuff happening at the same time really varies depending on what you're trying to do. So let's have a look. The first reason we might care about are bug fixes. So we've got different releases of our application. Now, if you have a web app, this probably doesn't make sense. There's only one version of the web app unless you deliver some kind of on-prem solution for a SaaS business or something unusual like that. But anything that's like a library you're delivering to other people, a Python package or a desktop application or any of those kinds of things, then definitely you could be in this scenario. You've released versions over time, different people are using them. Maybe there's a breaking change from version 1 to version 2. You can't necessarily bring all the stuff back from 2 that has maybe a bug fix in it to help the people on 1 because they can't change, right? They're not necessarily ready to change, or they might not even own a license to this, right? If you're selling different versions and they've got to pay to upgrade. So what happens if you've already released version 1, 1.1, and 2, and you're still you're working on 2.1 and beyond, you're past this, right? Somebody comes and says, there's a problem with 1.1. We need to fix it. How are you going to do that? Branching. That's what you're going to do. So what you'll do is you're going to create a branch over here and you're going to make those changes. And maybe you'll call this now 1.1.3. You can apply tags at these different levels to help you find them. So you might say this part, this new branch, we went over here, and now here is what we consider to be the release 113, and that's what we're shipping to customers. So by doing this, we've not affected version 2, we've also not affected version 1, and whatever happens to be the current development for the next version of 2+, that's not affected by this. So what we can do is we can use these branches to spin off some parallel development, like effectively time travel back to what we released for 1.1 and say, in this world where we're at 1.1, we want to continue down a different path where we fix that bug and then ship that to customers. Ideally, don't ship bugs, but it happens. So here, this bug fixes story, this is a really common way of branching and not necessarily bringing it back. So you got to decide, do the changes you made in the past, do they still apply to the future? If they did, well, then you'd probably want to merge those bug fixes forward. But let's imagine in 1.1, we were on one UI framework and we switched over in 2 and the bug was in the old UI framework. So there's just no reason to bring that forward. It might just stop here unless for some reason we need to patch 1.13. All right, so reason number 1, bug fixes. Second reason you might want to branch is to create more stability for development and releases. If you have some kind of QA department, or you might need to be releasing frequently, maybe this is a web app and every couple of days you want to roll out some kind of feature, but there might be multiple people working on it, or you just might be working on something that's going to create some instability and you want to always have the main shipping version of your application in a stable state that you can always release if you need to. So we might again have a scenario that looks like this, but we might create some kind of dev branch alongside our main branch. When I usually do this, I actually call the main branch where we're just doing the development work, and I have a production branch that we might use for shipping stuff over to production. And as we do work along the dev branch, we periodically are going to merge those changes back over to keep the main branch in sync with this dev branch. Now, this is a simplistic view of how you would do this here. This is probably not how it's going to look for large teams. As we'll see, we're getting to more interesting and nuanced aspects as we talk about more of the reasons for branching. But here's a simple one. We just create a branch where we do our work, and then we create a branch where if you check that out, it should build, it should run, it should work, and we just periodically bring those changes back over through merging. So reason number 2 for branching, to create a more stable release branch and a place where we can do development without fear that every little tiny change has to continue to work all the time. Reason number 3 for branching is experimentation. I opened this course by talking about source control being a superpower that lets you fearlessly change and experiment with your application. Here's part of what I meant. So again, we have our main branch, and here we don't have version numbers. Let's imagine this is like a web application where you just sort of continuously release it as features are done. And we want to try some new ideas. So maybe we want to think about rewriting the front end. Maybe it's in Angular and you're like, I'd really like to try see how Vue.js is going to work out. What if we rewrote that? It seems like that has more momentum. And in JavaScript, you got to rewrite everything every 6 months at a minimum, right? There's a rule for that. Here, what we might do is we might say, we're going to fork off a branch of whatever the current stable version is, and we're going to completely rewrite the front end in Vue.js. And then we're going to decide, did that go well? Do we really want to do this, or do we not want to? So we might make some changes, because it's a branch, other people could contribute and look at it. And we might decide, you know what? It's not necessarily that much better. So let's just stick with what it is now. So in this case, we're not going to merge those changes back. We're just going to kind of abandon it for now. And if we want to pick it up later, sure, we can do that. Maybe another idea, we want to talk about using an asynchronous ORM. Maybe we want to talk about using SQL Alchemy 2 and async and await and see if we can get a lot better scalability and support more users on the same hardware and the same code base. So we might experiment with that. We'll create another branch. Then we're going to change everything over in the data layer. And guess what? This worked out awesome. We're super psyched about it. We're like, yeah, this is definitely the path forward. So in this case, we merged those changes back into the main branch. For experimentation, sometimes experiments work out, sometimes they don't. but it allows us this great flexibility. Nothing that we did with the view experimentation broke the app or derailed development or anything like that. And we were able to just leave it in the branch. The async stuff worked out and we were able to bring that in to go forward. And now everyone has that async feature to work with. So reason number 3, experimentation. Reason for branching number 4 are feature branches. Feature branches are somewhat like this experimentation story. They look a little bit similar. Again, we have our main branch, but it's a little more focused and controlled. You know that you're committing to do this feature. You know that maybe even it's just a bug fix, but you want to have a very clear line of development and path that you can trace back to say, here are all the changes, not just one giant commit, but here are a bunch of changes in conversations around adding this feature, or here's a set of conversations around some bug fix. And because these are separate branches, we're going to be able to actually have one person working on the bug fix, one person or team on some feature, and they're not going to interfere with each other. So we're going to come over here and say, we want to add a new feature, do a bunch of work on that feature over time. These colors here are meant to indicate that some of the time the app, the feature is not ready to be brought in. If you try to bring it in, it's going to destabilize the development, right? Like at that red bar part, if we were to commit those changes back to the main line, maybe we're doing that async thing, but it's only halfway done. It's not really complete. And so the app might not even run, or if it's a compiled language, it might not even compile. You definitely don't want to be putting that back in the main branch, but eventually you get to this little green bar where everything is good. This feature is done and you're ready to bring it back. So then you merge it back into the main branch. You can have code reviews and all sorts of stuff around that before you're like, all right, here are all the changes, yellow, red, yellow, green. Let's talk about them, polish them. And when we're ready, then all in one shot, we're going to bring those back into the main line. And what's cool about that is you can actually go and trace that back over time. You can see a little bit more detail about the people that worked on it and so on. Often this is structured at what's called a pull request. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But this idea of breaking off to work on a feature and then when it's completely ready, bringing it back, that's a little bit like stable development, but it's way more polished because instead of just pushing these changes back and everyone's working on the purple dev branch, every feature or every bug fix has its own branch where all of its work happens and then it's brought back when it's ready. Different from experimentation because you're definitely planning on adding this feature. You're definitely planning on doing this bug fix. So you're not putting it out there speculatively. You're actively creating this branch so that you can say, here's a stable, isolated place for us to work. Let's do that. And then when we're finished, we'll bring it back over so we don't interfere with other people or just the stability of the project. Now, the final reason that you might create a branch is because you want to contribute to open source. That's going to look very, very similar to a feature branch. And I even said the way we might structure the conversation within our team of bringing all those changes over and code review and everything could be what's called a pull request. Remember, that's a GitHub thing built on top of some of these features. It's not built into Git itself. Well, it turns out that that's the primary way that people contribute to open source projects as well. But the way that that happens is slightly different because you do your changes on your fork of the repository, and then the pull request does the merge not back to your main branch, but to the main branch of the actual forked project or wherever that branch originated from. So that's a little bit different. It's a little bit nuanced, but it's very powerful. And it's a great way, even if you're not doing open source, to structure the conversation around a set of changes. But it's especially important for open source, so much so that our next chapter is about that, not this one. So we're just going to focus on these first 4 in this chapter. And then we have a whole dedicated section on Git flow and pull requests and all that kind of stuff. It's time to write some code and explore this idea of branching. The first scenario that we're going to explore is this going back in time to fix a bug report. Remember, this applies to software that you ship. This applies to especially packages or like a desktop application or anything like that. Web apps, not so much because usually you just fix it and push that out. You don't go back and have a historical version, again, unless you deliver the web app to someone else for them to host. So what we're going to do in this section is we're going to create a new repository. We already have funny web. We'll have sketchy rock, paper, scissors. That's what we're going to have for our next one. And this will just be an RPS app, super simple. Again, I'm going to make it private for now. And all this code is going to go into the course repository, but not as a separate repository. Who knows? Maybe I'll make them public again. Go ahead and add a README. Going through this once more just so you kind of get the chance to say, all right, I see how we're creating this repo and everything. We want to set this up for not icon, but Python. And it doesn't really need a license unless we were to make it public, but what the heck. MIT, people can rock, paper, scissors all they want. So let's go and create that. Now we want to check it out, and I'll just put it over here next to this other one. Say a new clone from URL. Copy the URL up here. The destination path is going to be /desktop. And we can give it a shorter name if we want. We could just call it RPS, even though the name on the server is sketchy rock, paper, scissors, just so you can see that the names are super long or don't make sense as a directory name. We can change that. And there we have it on the desktop. Cool. Let's open this up in Finder. Now, this project won't have any external dependencies, so I'll probably just skip creating a virtual environment for this one. We'll see, but let's open this up in PyCharm. Drop it here. Python 3.9 is not the latest, but it will be fine. So let's go over here and we'll make a Python file just called game. Now, instead of you watching me type out rock, paper, scissors, I have some code that I got from another one of our courses here. Now, instead of you watching me type out rock, paper, scissors, I got some code from one of my other courses, the beginner's course, the beginner Python course, where it implements rock, paper, scissors in a somewhat non-trivial way. So a little bit of an extensible way. So here we have our roles, which is very cool. We've got a little part where it'll print out what it is. We don't really need to say what edition it is. Let's say version instead. Let's get rid of this line. We'll just say version 1.0. This is our initial release of this app. And these rules up here say if I'm a rock, the rock is defeated by scissors, or defeats the scissors and is defeated by paper. Paper defeats the rock, but is defeated by scissors, and so on. So the details of this are not super important. Basically, it's pretty simple, but let's go ahead and run it just to have fun. So let's go over here. What are we going to roll? Let's roll rock. All right. Well, computer played rock, so we're tied. If they played rock, maybe they're going to play it again, so we should play paper. Oh, they played scissors. They cut us up on that one. Not so good. I think you play 3 rounds. Let's just play a few more and see what happens. There we go. Best of 3. We only got 2 with our straight down the middle rock play at the end there, and computer mix it up in 1/3 of the rounds. Okay, so this is going to be our version 1 of our game. We're ready to check this in, right? So make sure everything is saved. Now we could just commit this in PyCharm, but let's go ahead and just mix it up, and I'll come over to source tree and we'll commit it here. So again, we've got our game. This will be v1.0 of RPS. We'll go ahead and commit that. And these, let's say we want to ignore, again, everything under .idea. So ignore everything under that in this repository, which means it goes into the git ignore. And then if I check push, it's going to commit this, and it already has 1 pending change, so that'll push 2 changes up to the repository. Quick refresh shows that they are there right now. So ignore the idea, version 1.0 of the game, and then just the README. When we did our commit, we said, here's version 1.0 of RPS. But if we go back and look at the history, either here or on GitHub, there's not really a place that says 1.0. Like that word right there says version 1.0, but that's just a part of the text of the commit message. Git has this idea of tags, and let's go over and say that the current version, this one here, we want it to be officially marked with 1.0. This is useful because over on GitHub, We can have things like releases. And if you say, I want to create a new release, it says choose a tag. Well, sorry, no tags. So let's go ahead and add a tag so that we can know how to get back to these versions that we're working from. So we'll do tag, and it will be specifically on there. We're going to want to push this to origin. So we could tag it just in our local repository, or we could say we want to make sure that GitHub and everyone else also gets this tag. And we're just going to call it v10. Add that. We're pushing that over. And now here you can see the little tag. And if we go to GitHub, go to tags, we now have this one right here. We could even create a release of it. We're not really going to go into those sorts of details because we're not actually releasing this, but you know, the utility of these tags is quite high. The fact that we have this tag will allow us, as we make changes in the future, to go back if for some reason we need to get back to exactly what we released to the customer or to the website or to our users if they don't pay and it's just open source or whatever. This is really useful because it stamps exactly what happened in source control. It might feel like, oh yeah, I'll go back. I'll know which one. We'll look at the release message. Well, was it this one? Or, you know, I said 1 here, but that's actually the 1.0 release there. You know, it's really confusing over time to be certain what was what. So using tags to indicate where you are in different parts of your release cycle, super helpful. We have big ideas for version 2 here. Did you know there are actually more variations of rock, paper, scissors? Oh yes, you know rock, paper, scissors, but have you heard of rock, paper, scissors, Spock, and lizard? In fact, there's 25-way RPS as well, which is pretty amazing. There's all these different kinds of rock, paper, scissors. There's even 101 if you really, really want. But I encourage you to go check these out. They are tons of fun. We're not going to do 25-way rock, paper, scissors, but what if we did this two additional players here? We're going to add that as a feature. This is going to be our premier version 2.0 thing that we're going to offer to people. So let's go try to make some room here and add these things. So we have rock, and we're going to need to have lizard and Spock. Okay, fantastic. Now we just need to put the rules in for them. So I'm going to sort of say, all right, well, rock defeats lizard. So we'll put lizard in here. And lizard defeats Spock. So lizard defeats Spock. So I'm just going to go through and finish filling out the details here. No reason for you to watch me type them all. And then we'll try our version 2 of the game out. All right, there it is. I think I have all the details put in here correctly. Let's go and play around with our new setup. Look, we have new roles. Oh, we got to fix the version before I even go on. Let's not forget about fixing up the version. This is going to be 2.0. Great. So here we have available roles: rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. What is your role? Oh, I can't resist rolling some Spock. The computer rolls paper. Paper defeats Spock, it turns out. And so they take the round. I'm going to bust out the lizard. So, oh no, the scissors have defeated the lizard. It's only logical to play Spock again. A tie. Oh, we have defeated the scissors. We're going straight Spock to the end. But we were defeated by paper. It is so vexing. Even logic cannot solve paper. So we've lost, but fine. Our game is definitely cooler. We want to check that in. So we'll check that in and say 5-way RPS. Push those changes. Good to go. Now, if this is the official version 2 release, let's go over here and do those changes. Now notice this is out of sync. Source tree is out of sync, so we can just do a quick pull to really a fetch would be sufficient. But we can just sort of say, sort of refresh your history here. Okay, so again, this one, now we want to tag this. That's version 2.0. You can go over and you could even expand your tags and jump back and forth to them. We'll do that in a little bit, but we can go over here and see our tags. We can see them in this history. We can see them on GitHub. So we're tagging our releases. We're good to go. So far, everything's good, right? Oh no, we've got a bug report. Some apparently users who were using version 1 of rock, paper, scissors, if they enter some kind of value outside the range, when you run it here, it says available roles, what do you want to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It turns out that if we put, say, 6, it says, sorry, that's out of bounds. But that bug was discovered and fixed somewhere later, not in 1.0, but like somewhere between 1.0 and 2.0. We've already changed our app. We have now 5-way rock, paper, scissors. The people who have the other one, they don't want 5-way rock, paper, scissors. They just want their version of 3-way rock, paper, scissors to not crash if somebody types a 4 instead of a 1, 2, 3 or something like that. So what do? We're going to need to create a branch to fix this problem, right? Well, what's the first thing you do when you get a bug report? You just create a branch and run with it? No, you want to triage it. You want to make sure that it's actually a problem. So you go run the game and you type 747. Seems like it works. But again, this is version 2. So how do we easily get back to that version? Well, in all the various tools we have, there's a way to go back to it. Luckily, we've been tagging our releases with V1 and V2. So we can come over here and just say, check out this, or I could be more intentional and do it off of the branch. I could say, check out version 1, and it'll say your head will become detached. That means you won't be able to sort of commit after this unless you go back or create a branch from there and so on. So it's kind of a little bit sketchy, but let's just go ahead and do it. We come back here. Notice instantly this changes. Let's go ahead and run it and just triage it. We'll say 7. Yeah, so there is the bug. That's unfortunate. Okay, well, now what? What do we do? Well, of course, we want to fix this and we want to roll it out, but we don't want to take the other changes. This branch for a feature fix that we've been working towards, this is where we're going, right? And you can see down here, there's this sort of warning that you're detached. And so it doesn't point to a branch, which means you can't make changes and check them in really. So that's a little sketchy. While we're talking about branches, notice down here, I can click on this and it will actually take me to the different branches. Right now there's only one, but you can create new branches, merge branches and stuff in PyCharm right there, much like you can over here. So of course we want a branch from here, and I can do that. I can right click and say branch. It will allow us to create a new branch based on this, what's called a SHA. This is the hash of where that commit is, where we've tagged it, and it'll create it here, but I want to do something slightly different. I want to do it over on GitHub. Let's go over here to GitHub. I want to do it on GitHub for 2 reasons. One, to show you, here's a cool way to start out on the server so everyone gets access to it straight away. The other one is there's a problem. So let's go down here. We can see our tags. That's unfortunate. There's only V1 tag here. And it looks like maybe I need to refresh it. Nope, there really is only V1 tag. But in this, we have 2. I was quick. I didn't mean to forget to push it up to the remote server, but I did. So let's just go and fix that real quick. So this tag, I could keep this tag locally until I'm sure I want to make it part of the official repository. So when you create a tag, you don't have to start it on the server, but now I want to push to origin. Wait for it. Refresh. Cool. Now our tags are in sync with the server. So let's go back over here, and I want to go to tag, click on V1. And then in this section, this is sort of where you manage branching. I can say I want to create a new branch. Let's call this, depending on what you want to, how you want to think about it, you might want to call this like some kind of bug fix and then tag the result. So I'll say bug no input validation. And sometimes you might even want to have an issue over here that has a number. So you might say 342 or 372, which might be the bug number. But I'm just going to leave it like this. Create a branch from here. So this branch is now separate from our other one. Let's go and we'll get the changes again. We'll do a pull. Now here we have origin bug no input validation. So that means over on GitHub, this is where this branch is currently, and it's just in sync with that step, but soon it'll sort of sidestep and do something different, right? And here is where origin main is. So what we want to do is we've got these origin branches. We want to check them out. Right, so I can go here and say check out. Let's do it in PyCharm though. Command T to update the project just to make sure it's seen the changes. Probably it has from what we did in source tree. You could say either merge or rebase. I always use merge, and once you tell it, don't ask again, guess what? It won't ask again. So we can come down here, just like we did before, and here's the no input validation. Check that out. Now we have it locally. Okay, so let's go and fix that terrible bug. So the problem is when we run it, let's just put 7, index out of range. I can just click right here. It'll jump us right to it. So here's the problem. We get the selected index. We let them enter 1, 2, 3, but in Python, it's 0, 1, 2 in the dictionary or the list here. So all we really need to do is a quick check. So we can say if selected index is less than 0 or greater than or equal to the length of role names. That's the problem. We want to print, whoops, that's out of bounds, and we'll just return nothing. Let's see if this fixes the problem. Let's make sure it still works. 3, great, we rolled scissors. That's what we intended. 74, whoops, that's out of bounds. Try again. Whew, I think we fixed it. So our bug is fixed. Let's commit our changes. Just do that in PyCharm, the editor, fix bug. We'll put the 372 just to kind of put a number. It'll actually link over in GitHub. It's not really a thing because we don't have that many bugs, but that's how you would do it. Fix bug for input validation. Commit and push. Notice it's going to push to origin, bug no input validation, not back to main. Fantastic. Let's go over here and look on GitHub. Never mind this pull request stuff, we'll get to in a minute. It says this branch is a little bit of ahead. This is the bug fix, and also behind, that's the 5-way rock, paper, scissors. That's fine. So we have these different branches now for version 1 and 2. So let's jump over to source tree and see where we are. Make sure that it has the branch going on here, that it's selected the bug no input validation branch. And now you can see we've created this branch here, and it looks like this one's farther ahead, but only because of the time, right? We've committed to this one since. Now, we want to make sure we tag this one so that we can get back to it as well. Maybe this one is going to be v1.1. I'm going to go ahead and push that tag over there. We've done a release. We've shipped the fix to the users. They're like, yes, we still have our three-way rock, paper, scissors, and it works great. It's no longer crashing. Thank you, awesome development team. And just real quickly, let's carry on adding one more tiny feature of version 2. So we want to switch back to the branch, the main branch. So we're either going to do that in source tree or we're going to do it in PyCharm. Just click here and just say check out. And we're back all of a sudden. Down here, you can see our 5-way rock, paper, scissors. And the only thing I'm going to do is just make this version 1.2.1 just so we can see that something happens. All right, so newer version. Let's commit it real quick. Path forward is good. 2.1. Onward towards 2.1. All right, let's go ahead and commit and push those changes. Do a quick fetch just to see that this is in sync. And there you go. You can see now that we've had our version 1, and then we did our quick little diversion back in time. We rolled back in time for version 1 and did that fix, created release v1.1, and then we just keep going, right? Here's version 2, and this is just active development, and at some point we'll release 2.1, call it 2.1, tag it, and so on. Okay, there was a lot of juggling, a lot of moving parts there, but hopefully you really got a good appreciation of how we can use branching and tagging to solve these problems of, oh, there's a fix, we have to go back and do something, right? Super common for like Python packages or libraries or shipped applications. Less common on the web, again, unless you're shipping the web app to people for like a software as a service on-prem type of story. And that's pretty uncommon, but it does exist. All right, there's our first reason that we might want to create a branch, and it's really great. Things are good. Let's look at one more idea, one more workflow for branching. And this is going to be feature branches. We've got a new idea for our app, and it's going to take a little bit of work. We're not sure exactly when we're going to be finished with it. So we don't want to hold up release of new features. We want to branch off, do a bunch of work there, and when it's ready, we're going to merge that back. So remember, that's work on a new feature, make a bunch of changes, think about when it's time to bring it in, and then bring that back in with the merge. That's what we got on deck for this one. So here we are back in our rock, paper, scissors. Let's suppose that we want to make it, add some little bit of idiosyncrasy to our computer role. Now, this is the way the computer chooses. It just goes to all the role names, rock, paper, scissors, Spock, and lizard, and it just randomly picks one evenly. But let's give it a little bit of weirdness that if people know, like a little inside game, or they could even observe it, that there's something odd about the computer. It really likes things that start with the word S. So it might play scissors and Spock more frequently than paper, lizard, or rock. Okay, so let's go and say we want to add that feature, but other stuff is going to go along. Maybe that's really kind of complicated. We're not sure. So I could just start changing here on main, but everyone else on the team is going to have to see that. And if there's no team, it may still destabilize our app for other things we might do to it. Maybe a bug fix comes on and we got to real quick make a change or something like that. All right. So we're going to create what's called a feature branch. Now, again, we could do this anywhere. I'm going to do this over on GitHub, create a branch here to start and then go from there. So I'm just going to say, however things are at the moment, I want to just create a new branch. This will be feature, or one thing you can do that's kind of cool is if you put like your initials or something and a slash, and we go feature biased computer, something like that. And we create a branch from there. I'll show you this as a neat little effect. So we've created this branch. We're separated from the main development. Things can go on. So let me just give you an example. For example, like if we say, oh, we added new features as part of like some other flow of the development, working forward on main. This is not going to be affected for us. We're not going to see it and so on. And we won't also affect it. So work will be able to continue on forward, kind of like that completely trivial thing I just did. So we want to check that out. Again, we could do that in VS Code. We could do that in source tree. We go back to our RPS and fetch. We'll see now on remote. This is the thing I wanted to show you. Check this out. Now you have all of your branches. If you do mk/, well, I do that from Michael Kennedy. You can see that all of my stuff gets put into little folders in source tree. So you could have like bugs/ features/ your name/ whatever. You can sort of leverage that to do this cool branching stuff if you want. So I could check it out here, but let's just check it out in PyCharm. So you can see down here we have these. And this one I'm done with, right? Maybe. So I could come down here and delete this. And it says, do you want to delete the tracked branch? No. That is like effectively unchecking it out locally. But it doesn't delete it from the repository. I could always go back and check it out again. Okay, so I'm going to check out this one. This one, the feature biased computer. Notice it went back to the way it was when we did that initial branch. And let's just quick knock something out here. Let's see. Got some ideas. So we'll refactor, extract a method so that we can say get computer a role. So we got this, and then down here somewhere, get computer role. So we have our role names, and let's just, we could do a variable. This will be roles, or names is fine. But let's do this. Let's say it's twice as likely to play anything with the S. So we've got all the role names, and we want to add the list of R for R in role names, if R dot starts with S. Okay, so let's just put a quick breakpoint right here, just to see that this is doing what we might expect. We don't care about whatever that is. I'm going to play number 4. What's the computer going to do? Check this out. It plays rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. That's the role names, but the names are same. And then scissors appears again, and Spock appears again. So there's twice as likely to play scissors or Spock as they are anything else. It's not the best high performance way to do things, but you know what? It's going to work just fine. So let's play a little bit of this here. You know what? I know they're going to play Spock, and let me remind myself what defeats Spock. Spock is defeated by lizard and paper. All right, let's throw a lot of lizard in here. All right, you roll lizard. They roll scissors, of course. And sadly, in a gruesome way, the lizard is defeated. Let's do it again. Oh, surprise, surprise. They rolled Spock. I'm going to keep just going. They played lizard. Still tied. Still tied. They played scissors. Oh, I wasn't counting on scissors. They played Spock. Well, you can see they're playing the S's a little bit more. And finally, for the first time in this entire course, I've crushed them 3-2. Well, crushing, that's not exactly what that would be, but I did beat them. Super cool. So now we can say biased role in place. And if I commit and push that, where is it going to go? To this biased branch. Great. And we can come up here and let's look here in our RPS, do a fetch to sync it up. We're on the MK/feature branch, and now see the biased role is in place over there. But the main, origin main and local main is totally fine, right? So our path to 1 is forward. So everything's looking good. Let's just make one more change. Remember in my example of the feature branches, we had multiple steps. What else do we want to do? Let's have it just print. I don't want to change this line actually. So we can do maybe just a print down here, biased towards the S, hint, hint. This is pretty contrived, but when it plays, you can say 5 and you can see computer bias towards the S, hint, hint. Just want to show a couple of changes. So like more work on feature. It's here. Push those forward. And if we do a fetch just to refresh the history in this UI, we could close it and open it again as well. But you can see more work on the feature going down that path. And then let's say we want to remove the logging. Remove the logging. Oops, once we select the changes there. That's it. Our feature, let's consider this complete. Here we have it. We've got the bias role in place. We did some logging. We were happy. We removed the logging. So I think our feature is complete, but it's not yet coordinated or organized or synced back into or delivered to the actual app, right? It's this sort of exploratory thing for now. It's time to take our feature and put it into the app. We had to do a couple of steps, but we've tested it. Everyone's code reviewed it. It's good to go. I'll show you 4 ways in which we can merge it, and there are more. So first of all, we could go over to the GitHub repository, and we could do this thing. It says, do you want to compare and create a pull request, which is going to then create a merge, do the merge. We could do that, but we have the whole next chapter coming on pull requests, so not going to do that. Over here on this feature is we could switch back to our main. It's important to do this first, and then we can go to this section here, our branch, and say we want to merge. Do you want to merge that into the current branch? Make sure the current branch is where you want it to go. So I've checked out main. commit merges immediately. Okay, we could do that, but we're not going to. Let me undo that checkout. So we're back on here for the other tools, kind of starting in the same location. In VS Code, notice it's mk/feature biased computer. I could switch over to main, check out main, and then go branch merge, select the branch to merge from, and then I can go pick, I want to merge from the biased computer into main. So that's one. And let's go ahead and check out our biased version once again to put it back. And then finally, over here in PyCharm, down here on the right, we've got our feature branch. So again, we want to go back into the branch. You almost always, in every scenario I've shown you, you want to be in the destination branch. So we want to check out main, because what's going to happen is we'll do a merge into there, and then we need to commit that merge into the branch it wants to go to. That's main. We're going to say check out main, and then here we can click once again, go to this feature branch and say not check out, but merge MK feature biased computer branch into main. So I'm going to click this. Notice right here, this is 2. This is a local change that is ahead of that branch, so it should stay. But we should get that line right there changing. So I'll try to put these both on the screen. That should stay because that's future work that's already been done. This should change because that's the feature we've added. Let's see how this goes. Merge into this branch into current. Boom. Still 2.2. Awesome. But now we have the get computer role with the fantastic implementation of the biased towards S's. All right. Let's go ahead and run it, make sure it still works. So it's 2.2, and is it biased towards S's? I don't know, but it's getting lizard to find out. Computer, what do you roll? You're throwing scissors, you're throwing lizards. Okay, look at that, they really beat us bad. Anyway, it looks like it's working, runs fine. And if we go look at the pending changes, there are no changes because they were committed. But if we look at what needs to be pushed, how interesting. What needs to be pushed are all the aspects of that feature that we've added. Biased role in place, more work on the feature, remove logging. You could even double click here to see what it was. Oh, yeah, there's the logging that's gone on this one. Biased role here. You can see that changed, and then this changed down here. So when we push our feature branch in, it's going to do all the changes plus this merge that happened here that basically kept some of the pieces from each side. All right, let's push it. Our feature is complete and is now brought back into the main line of the application. But we're able to sidestep through this branch, do all the work until it was really, truly ready, test it out, had logging, took the logging back out, and so on. Let's just look one more time at how things look visually. There we go. That looks a lot like the picture that we drew before, didn't it? So here, from 1 to 1.1, this is our feature branch that kicked off to the side. Sorry, this is our bug fix that kicked off to the side. This where it kicked off, it did some work, and then when it was ready, came back. That is our feature branch. So entirely different reasons for branching, so entirely different considerations, right? This, we just want to create a fix and it's going to be abandoned. This one, we want to just coordinate work with the goal of eventually bringing that change back into the main line. Awesome. Feature added. One thing you might want to consider is tending the garden of your branches on the repository. So let's go over here. We're in code. And we can click on this little drop down, branch manager, and say view all branches. So we have our main default branch, which is important. And we have your branches. Some of these are finished up. We don't need them anymore. Now you might want to keep them for historical purposes, but oftentimes you might not want to. This list over here along the side is going to get longer and longer, and eventually it's going to become just a tangled mess of yuck that you don't want to deal with. It's going to be completely out of control. So for the feature branches, and especially this is managed well with the pull request, which we'll get to, is this thing is entirely done. This one, this should live on. Like, what if there's a problem with version 1.1 and we need a version 1.2? You want to keep this here so that we can and not throw away that work, right? Because it was never merged back. But this was merged back and we're done with it. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete our feature branch because I don't need to see it anymore. I'm completely done with it. A good analogy for branching is a little bit like credit cards. If all you have is cash, it's hard to buy things. It's hard to be really flexible financially. You've got to go to the bank and get more cash if you wanted to buy something. Even if you have tons of money in the bank, if you don't have the cash on hand, you won't be able to buy the thing. And forget internet shopping. That's no good, right? So credit cards are awesome. Just like that, branches are awesome too. They allow you this flexibility to do all these things. I can break off and in parallel, I can do all of this amazing work. However, the longer that you stay separated from the main branch, the more out of sync you are in space and time with the current development work, the harder it is going to be to bring those changes back together. Just like never paying off your credit card and letting the balance grow and grow, it is not a good thing. So you definitely want to make sure that you keep your branches in sync as much as possible. So that means if it's a feature branch, don't stay apart for too long. There's also some other cool techniques that we can look at that will show you how to pay down that debt as you go. But you should think of branching a little bit like credit cards. And if you don't pay them off, if you don't do the merge on the branch and you don't go and pay off your credit card, similarly, bad things are going to accumulate and it'll be harder when the time comes to finally do that. This idea of paying off credit card debt or branch debt as you go for feature branches is so important. And yet I get the feeling that many developers do not do it or don't think to do it. It's actually incredibly easy. So what I want to do is run through one more super quick scenario now that you've seen how feature branches work and have this developer not fall so far behind as they go. Okay, so here we're going to have me working on this computer, and we're going to have over on Windows, we're going to have our user over here using Visual Studio Code continuing on the main branch. So this developer over here is just continuing work, simulating like other people on the team doing things. Meanwhile, we're going to create a feature branch. So let's go quick, go back here, and I'm going to do a branch I'll call MK Better Messaging, something like that. I'm going to create a branch based on that. Minimize. Now, if I go to PyCharm's little branch thing, it's not down here. Notice none of this stuff is here. But if I do a pull, now our better messaging is here and our other one is gone. So I want to do a checkout of that. So now notice we're on the better messaging branch. Move this over just in case my head gets in the way. We're on this feature branch over here. Maybe we want to do some logging. We'll do some print app starting up. Maybe we'll take this version and encode it over here to at the top, something like this, like version equals 2.1, spelling it correctly. And we'll even put the version in here like that. Let's run it and see how it's going. Create app starting up version 2. So very good. That's part of our messaging. Meanwhile, over here, like say, suppose that this line has changed. People are coming along and saying print. Here this will be v2.1 or 2. It said 2, didn't it? 2.2. So we're going to put that there. Let's suppose we want to make the computer even more biased. Down here, where's our little bias thing? Computer roles, and we could do 2 times that. Put a little breakpoint in here, and let's just go and debug the file and see what we get. So we're debugging this and over in VS Code. Let's go do our role. Do a 4. There we go. We can get our names to come down, and you can see it's rock, paper, scissors. It's got the normal, then it's Spock, scissors twice. So now it's even more biased, right? So, some stuff is happening. And over here, this person decides, yeah, this is a great feature. We're ready to commit it. They say now more biased even. Let's commit that, sync those changes, and so on. So this is simulating outside of us, more work has been happening. And here we're doing this, and we're going to go make some more changes. Let's say down here, we'll say print. Let's do a print like this. Print, no winner yet. Keep playing. Something like that. Now, I could commit these changes, whatever, but as I do more work, there's a danger that I'm going to fall further behind. Like, let's imagine one of the things I want to do seems totally reasonable up at the top, that we have this 2.2 here, and we're trying to move to having it at the top and then showing up down here, but also right there. If I were to just make that change and then try to merge my feature in, I'm going to get a merge conflict. That's like waiting too long to pay off the credit card. But there's no reason that I can't be more in sync with what's happening on the main branch. So for example, let me just do a get pull of everything here. And I can come down to this one. It says there are incoming commits. Needed to pull those. I can do an update. We'll do it. Perfect. It updated. Okay. Never used that feature before. So now that I've got the latest off of main on my machine, what I can do is say, I'm not ready to put this feature out yet, but I want to pay down the time difference that I've been separated from the other developers. So what that would mean is to take the changes that are in main and synchronize them now, do some more work, take whatever new changes are in main, synchronize them again, and then when I merge back, I'll be way closer. So what I can do to pay down this branch debt is I go to main here, it's in sync again because of what I just did, and say merge main into better messaging. And hold on. First, you got to commit your changes. So let's go ahead and say now with versions specified in a variable. Don't push. I guess you can push. It doesn't matter, but just commit it locally. Pushing is unnecessary, So we can go down here and merge this into main. And look what happened. This is the change that would have been that bad debt, this credit card, this branch debt, that got merged in. This is still here. All my work is still here, and I can carry on. I'm like, oh, so yeah, let's go ahead and change this as well. So we use that version thing, and that's good. And then let's just do one more message, print you. I'll just call this, let's call it player one. That's what you're going to be referred to as. And this will be now with more message improvements, commit, so on. And let's look and see what we see here now. Fetch, refresh yourself. So look, we've got this change here, but this sort of step right there, we merged main into better messaging. So basically, previously, this part right there, that distance from here to there was the branch debt that we're going to have to deal with when we merge them back. But now because we did that point in time merge, it's only, well, right now it's exactly the same. So whenever we're ready to bring our feature branch in, maybe more changes have happened over here. Let's see. Let's just import sys or just some random thing at the top. Again, it's not going to matter, but just another main change. Let's check that in, sync that. Refresh the picture. So here you can see we're here. The main is there, but we're not nearly as far out of touch. We're only that distance from here, not all the way. So now we're ready to merge our feature branch in once again. How do we do it? Remember, what you want to do is first make sure you're all committed over here. No problem. We want to be in the branch we're going to merge into. We're going to merge into main. We're checking that out. And then we're going to merge. Let's do our pull our changes. There we go. And then we're going to merge our better messaging one. I'm going to merge that. I guess we want to go ahead and push those changes as well over to that branch in case we want to keep it. And now we're going to say, take that one and merge it, better messaging into main. And it worked completely fine. Was there any problem? No, this thing that might look like a problem just says you're not using this random thing I typed. We got this in here just like you would expect, 0 merge conflicts, except for what was happening along the way. If we waited too long, this line 39 would have been a merge conflict. So you can, as you're working on your features, you can just continue to merge the main line into your feature branch as you see fit. And that's effectively paying off that branch debt. Let's finally see the picture one more time and then put a wrap on this chapter. Here we have it. Look at this. So we've done a couple of merges in along the way. This yellow one was sort of a prepayment on the debt, I guess. This yellow-orange one, not the red or blue. That was us prepaying down the merge debt, so we ended up with no merge conflicts. I encourage you to do this if it makes sense, as long as the merging in from the main is not going to completely break your feature you're adding. It really makes things easier so you don't do a month's worth of work and then try to recombine it and end up in a rough place. All right. Pay down that merge debt. Stay good. Hey, I'm glad you made it to the end. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you've learned a lot about branching and Git and all the different reasons we might use them. If you want to learn more, check out our full course on up and running with Git over at Talk Python. Link is in the bottom in the description. And of course, you can also get the source code that we worked with over there as well. So if you want to learn more Python or more Git, source control, all these developer type of things, be sure to subscribe to my channel here and check out my 2 podcasts, Talk Python to Me and Python Bytes, Bytes with a Y. Thanks for watching. See you around.